It is heavy hitter time. Cosmo Macero, a man who has spent the better part of the last half hour trying to lengthen his tie.
That's true.
Peter Kadges, a man who was here on Saturday right on the Common. How was the festival?
Don't
even pretend you weren't there.
What
Kadges.
festival?
You know what I'm talking about, Macero.
The Hemp Fest.
I don't know, man.
Otherwise known as
Exactly.
otherwise known as the Phoenix Festival.
There you go.
And proudly so.
Let's have the laughter stop, gentlemen, because there's one word and one word only that we need to talk about today. Bailout. 700 billion, trillion, 1.5 trillion. Who knows how much this is going to cost? The battle lines have been drawn. We got Bush and the administration on one side. We got Barney Frank and Chuck Schumer on the other. You got any confidence that any of these jokers can figure this thing out and make some headway here, Cosmo?
Well, VB, I have a lot of hope. There's a few things that are important to keep in mind. It's a big bailout, and yes, it's taxpayer money, but you know what? It's also going to be borrowed money. The government will borrow $700 million, $1 billion to make this happen. And that's it's reason for pause. It's reason to be very, very cautious about how we proceed with this. Number two, we're essentially nationalizing all this debt. All this bad mortgage debt is being nationalized. But, and this is where the Democrats are coming in and saying we want a little bit more control here, we're not nationalizing any of the assets. There's no stake. And Barney Frank and Chris Dodd are calling for a stake in some of these companies that get bailed out for the government. And it's not exactly a crazy idea when this much is on the line.
Am I naive to think that things are flipped on their head now, Peter? Because you got the Republicans saying, just throw money at it and it'll fix itself like the Democrats usually do. And the Democrats are saying, hey, we want some answers and some regulation here like the Republicans normally do. The roles are reversed here.
Well, it's a complex world. A key thing, not the key thing, is that each of these bailouts is a little different. For example, the AIG bailout, the American International Group bailout, there's a pretty good likelihood that taxpayers through the federal government will, in 3 to 5 years, get their money back. Because AIG is an essentially sound company. The government has a stake in it. I think it's quite reasonable for the government and for the taxpayers to expect a stake in this. Listen, the problem here is that you have both the Democrats and the Republicans at fault here. The Democrats, to oversimplify, are at fault because for years they've pushed to allow unqualified borrowers into the mortgage market. The Republicans are at fault because they've fought tooth and nail against regulating these markets. So basically, you've got guys who were wrong before who I think are right now, but they're just flipping aside. The key here, in my mind, is to get a bailout czar, someone like New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg, a self-made billionaire who's also politically very savvy. Put a guy like that in the saddle.
Are you buying the bailout czar idea that's been floated?
I actually think it's a pretty good idea, a very good idea, actually. What's another thing that's key here, a lot of folks are talking about all the homeowners who are in trouble, and are they going to get bailed out? And the answer is no. However,
we'll see.
There ought to be, at least at this stage, there are proposals.
If Barney Frank gets his way, they will be bailed.
Yeah, there are ideas about giving bankruptcy judges the ability to rewrite
Don't mind
mortgages.
the kid with the AIG soccer shirt walking by. Good use of their money.
It's funny, I got my first AIG direct mail piece today, which I found pretty interesting. In any case, while it's important to sort of bring normalcy back to the housing market, if this works properly, that ought to happen. It's because it will create capital, it will free up capital for banks to start doing what they're supposed to be doing, lending, writing mortgages, and so forth.
Question, is it going to get better before it gets worse, or is it going to get worse before it gets better?
No, it's going to get worse before it gets better.
All right, we got to move on, gentlemen, because Friday is the big first presidential debate down at the University of Mississippi. Who's got more on the line on Friday, Barack Obama or John McCain? Start with you, Peter.
I think Obama has more on the line. The closeness of these polls, in my opinion, favors McCain. It's a very, very close race. Before we came on the air, we were talking about polls suggesting that race may be a bigger factor in the election. I've always thought it would be. I think Obama is the man on the spot.
I agree with Peter. I think Obama has the most on the line. I think, however, McCain maybe has the bigger risk here, because he is more at risk of losing his temper, making a mistake, doing something,
looking old,
and looking bad, quite frankly, against an extremely skilled orator and debater and a compelling figure in Barack Obama, and really doing damage to a campaign that, since the unveiling of Sarah Palin, has just really hit a stride.
But didn't McCain catch a break in a way? Because isn't the first half hour of this debate going to be about the bailout? And McCain sounds pretty knowledgeable on this stuff, even though he's somewhat crazy in some of the stuff he says, and he's going way too far in some of, at least in my opinion, in some of the stuff he's saying. Doesn't this help him in a way?
It can, but there are so many important current events swirling around right now that, again, it's easy for one of these guys, and I think more likely for him to step in it by saying the wrong thing or reminding people about the S&L bailout and the Keating Five or something like that, that I think he's got a lot of risk here.
Quickly, Peter, time is shorter than Cosmo's tie.
Okay. I think McCain has the advantage in this debate, because he can reduce almost anything to a platitude.
You happy now?
Obama has a tendency to overthink things, and if Obama overthinks, it'll be disaster. Geez, this is like being with, Ike and Mike on the air here.
I'm gonna go to I guess I'll go to the bow tie, right? Are you happy? Here it is. It's gone. I took it off.
All right.
I didn't mean to get ugly with you, Cosmo.
No, that's all right. That's all right.
If Barack or John McCain goes sans tie on Friday, do they win your vote?
I think I've just started a trend here.
They'll both have
I am
ties.
not bailing out that tie. That's where I draw the line.
McCain's tie will be red.
Peter Catches of the Phoenix and the Hemp Fest, Cosmo Macero of the
So I got dressed in the dark. What do you want from me?